Welcome back to the Bigger Hunters podcast. We're here to talk about how Jeremy killed so many birds. The end.
That'll be a wrap.
What Hunter really meant to say is we're going to talk about how our seasons ended. We don't just have to focus on me.
Okay, I can phrase this up for me and Hunter pretty quickly. Killed a goose or two. Killed some quail. We all tag teamed a pheasant on the last day. Okay, Jeremy, that was it. We didn't do anything else crazy. We had a good quail season.
In my defense, a lot of these weekends you guys had open invitation for. There's only one that you really didn't have. You were supposed to go with me the weekend I shot all the ducks. And then you just completely bailed on me.
Getting a couple good quail hunts in that weekend. You were gone, though.
But
I also had one really bad day. I walked like 4 miles, didn't find a single bird. So I think that was the first day you hunted up out yonder.
All right, so number one, let's establish, where does late season start? Like, at what point?
Post Christmas is usually late season for me.
So that's after.
Basically January.
Is that after we went to South Dakota?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I guess you could kind of wrap.
I'd throw that was a late season.
I mean, it was mid-December.
That's what I would call like that was
your demise.
That was the turn. Like that was like, oh, we're doing like the happy family and the nice, old station wagon, and the next thing you know, they just like.
What is it? What is
like
it? People say you're having a really good time, and then the lamp moves or the lamp flickers or something stupid. It's like you're in a make believe.
It's like, gosh, what's that Adam Sandler movie where I think it's Billy Madison one, O'Doyle Rules, and the whole family's like in the station wagon. O'Doyle Rules, O'Doyle Rules,
yeah.
O'Doyle Rules, and then just like runs right off the cliff.
Yeah,
that would be my late season.
Okay.
Okay, we talked about South Dakota a little bit. It just I running in. I remember we talked about it before we went. I didn't have any expectations. I just didn't want Nala to get hurt, and I wanted us to have a good time. I had a good time.
I had a great time.
The only thing that I got frustrated with was Adam didn't get a pheasant. That was it. But other than that, I had a good time.
I had a great time. I always love learning new areas, which I don't actually. We probably have recapped. I think we did recap South Dakota.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I understand some of the frustrations that came from that trip. But like, I can remember walking away from the trip, and I know both of you were sad by the birds we harvested. Not necessarily the birds we saw.
We found them.
We found birds. They were just because like both of you are pretty adamant about not going late season again.
Nope.
I'm definitely intrigued in going earlier in the year, but it'll be tough for me to use both of my periods of time early in the season.
South Dakota would be awesome on opener.
See, I disagree with you. I'm just like
It depends. It depends. Do they do the same thing that they did this last season, where South Dakota, North Dakota, and Montana were all the opening same weekend?
Maybe, but even then, like the amount of locals you would hear,
which
their openers earlier, but even then, like, the problem about that is they're going to bring all their family in, and then it's the family tradition opening weekend. Second weekend I'm all about, or even Monday I would go.
Yeah,
but the weekend,
See, and my biggest thing is, I personally don't like chasing pheasants until the crops are out. Actually, I don't really love getting hardcore into the upland until the crops are out. I mean, around your place, that's why we wait until November-ish to start shooting quail.
Nice thing about South Dakota is their crops come out decent little chunk before.
Yeah, but I've watched plenty of videos from early season, and guys are still hunting around corn to November almost. I mean,
I don't know. Every time I've been there, November 1st, they're all out.
Really?
They're all gone.
So I think the only other thing, I'd love to go earlier, but I also would love, I know where we went is very, is close enough that it's a feasible quick trip, if you will. Even though it was a weekend or 3 days we hunted, it's still a quick trip. I would love to adventure further north for one of our weekends.
I'd really love to adventure west.
I would love to adventure west too, but I'm just saying, like, I know, like, one of the weekends we're probably going to want to go where we know, I would assume. If I'm wrong, tell me. I'll go north and west.
If it were me, I would go in November, and I would go west, where Douglas provided me that we could hunt multi-species birds.
And the other thing is
because I'd want to hunt grouse for sure, prairie chickens, and then
I think you could make an argument that the further west you go, potentially the less pressured birds are going to be. I stumbled across one video from, you could tell it was very far west, South Dakota.
Yep.
And no dog walking by himself over the course of 3 or 4 days. He was shooting his limit of pheasants every day.
Nice.
And so I would be interested to know what the west side of the state. I agree. I would love to see the west side of the state. I just assumed you both would want to stay on the east side. But
I don't care where we go.
As long as there's birds.
Because you know me. I mean, I'll pick up and drive 8 hours in the evening just to get to an area even if it's just for a weekend.
Well, if for me, where my dad lives, I'd drive right there, drop off Ava, and go north to the big city that's there next to the lake, and then I would go a little bit farther west. That'd be where I'd be at.
Yeah,
that's probably 7 hours, maybe 6-7 hours, maybe.
Yeah,
I mean there's a national grassland through there.
Yeah,
I would definitely through that area.
There's a lot of stuff in that area, but so that's where the downfall was for you. Was after we got back from South Dakota.
I would agree. Yeah, that's when it started to take a turn. That's pretty much at that point. I didn't duck hunt just because it. Like, you went a couple times, I got invited. I just couldn't. I couldn't
make it work. Yeah.
And then my focus at that point, early in the season, was we talked, and I was like, okay, we're gonna goose hunt. I don't know if you want to go there or not.
I mean, we've talked about it for the most part.
Kind of. I mean, it's not that we didn't goose hunt. We had several problems.
Not cooperative.
Either the days that we were supposed to do really good, something would happen and it wouldn't work. And then I think the biggest issue we had with our goose season is, like, we were a day behind a lot of our hunts. Like, if we found
the thing is, like, my problem is there's several layers here. Number one, okay, if we have the spread we invest in a spread, we talked about it. Big spread, we've got at least 10 dozen full bodies.
Mm-hmm.
That's, like, in most places in the country, you got that many, like, you're wrecking geese. Like, you take 10 dozen to North Dakota, rolling geese. Okay, my problem is when you're down in the river, which we'll get there, but, like, those geese would come in. Like, they would come in.
Yeah.
Like, those big groups, even on the last day, they looked at us, but they were just like,
Our area experienced a few new groups, that's for sure, and a few new groups that had the time to kind of constantly be hunting, it seemed like. And, I mean, we talked about it on one hunt. We know for a fact one group was educating birds. I'm going to put it that way.
Well, my problem is they were hunting the same fields over and over again. So normally in a scenario like this, if you go to western Nebraska, those geese will avoid certain areas or certain fields because they know they're hunting there all the time.
Oh, yeah.
They get geolocated on certain areas. My problem is, normally in that case, if you get in a feed where they're going to be at, or even in that area, if you got that side of spread, they'll come into you.
Yeah.
They won't even do that.
Yeah.
That's what's insane to me. And, like, we hunted a field, which I don't know if we talked about on the podcast. They'd been there for days. We hunted the spot. There was goose turds.
Yeah.
They went and landed 300 yards from us. That's insane.
Yeah.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. I've listened to, like, several podcasts that we're not the only ones having that problem.
Everybody struggled with the temperatures, and I know, like, we're sitting right here right now. It's -1 degree outside, and we've all been complaining for the last 2 weeks that we've had the weather. As soon as season ended, I mean, I think today's 20th?
18th.
18th. So season's been over for 9-10 days now.
Yep.
And literally since season ended, we pretty much had the weather.
I wish we could hunt this coming weekend.
I wish we'd been hunting the last 3 days.
For sure.
Actually, dude, today with the snow and the weather, we would have killed geese today.
I will say about 3:00, those birds were zipping around the sky.
Oh, I'm sure. But so weather played a big issue to it, and like the time frames that we did have decent weather, it seemed like we weren't really like no one could go, or like I said, we had several hunts, particularly in one of your fields that we were behind the ball. We found them the day we should have been there. Yeah. Hunted them the day after, and it was the temperature would go up 15 degrees and the sun would come out. So, like, I totally understand your frustrations with the goose season because it was frustrating. I mean, we struggled, and I can see why you'd be mad.
My biggest issue of all that, like I've hunted as Western Nebraska, a pit. They hunt there basically every day. Mm-hmm. Like I've been in several of those situations. I was in that situation. There was a pit that was off the river that I hunted. Yeah. And I'd go after school and we'd go hunt all the time. Geese will avoid it because they know it's there. Yeah. They're not dumb. And they leave their decoys out. Yeah. But my problem is every once in a while you get a Timmy that breaks off and comes in. Yeah. That does not happen out there. You don't get singles that just break off and come into you.
No.
Now it does when the weather gets finicky or there's snow.
Here?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's mesmerizing. Like talking like cloud. I killed one goose. Now granted, there's a couple of times my gun's locked up and a couple hunts, but like max amount I probably would have killed like 3 or 4 geese.
Yeah.
That to me is like what?
Yeah.
And we probably hunted like what 6-7 times.
Yeah.
So, you guys
5 or 6 times.
And that's the thing is like my problem about all of this, like brass tacks, right? We put in the effort. I put in the investment money wise. You guys, I help a couple times, but like you guys put the time in and scouting.
Yeah.
We have the opportunity of private fields. Like that's massive hurdles. A lot of people can't get over. One, a lot of leased fields, not having enough money, not having the time to scout. Like there's so many things that you have to overcome to be a good goose hunter. And we did it. All of it did. But that's the thing is like, how is it that we did everything right? And then obviously you could just say it's just hunting. He's complaining. You know, like that's how hunting happens. Like,
yeah.
And I totally understand that argument, but like, I look at myself and I'm like, I've hunted a lot of goose. I've killed a lot of geese. Like I've killed 13 man of geese.
Yeah.
Yep. And I've went on umpteen amount of hunts since I was a kid to now. I would say I'm a good goose hunter, and yet I only kill one goose.
Yeah,
the whole season.
The worst season
I've
ever seen.
It's like, and we're hunting. It's not like we're hunting 100 geese. Like it's a roost of 1,000 geese.
Yeah.
Most season was like somewhere between 500 and 1,000. Like, you start itching your head. Like,
every time we hunted, we saw the birds.
Yeah, it wasn't that we.
And that's most infuriating thing. If you get the geese that come out and go in the roost and go a different direction, okay, you got beat by the geese.
Yeah.
But like, I'm imagining that last day where they're just like coming across those fields and just kind of like mosey and trying to figure out what they're gonna do. In those occasions, you should at least have like 1 or 2 break off and come into you.
Well, yeah. We did have the one group that locked wings and then old bald eagle.
I get that.
Swooped.
Yeah.
Would those birds have finished? Who knows? I doubt it because none of the other ones would even look at us that day.
It was just tough.
I don't know, man. It was just one. I realized just one of those seasons, but it's like, makes you itch your head and like, what the heck? So I don't know, man. And I get what you're saying. I mean, I get it that obviously in your position, it's like, yeah, there's some other groups and stuff out there, but
I mean, we definitely had several hunts that we would be in the middle of and going, what's going on? And what would probably frustrate me a little more than anything, like, is, and it goes into what's being said here, is these birds would come to us, but they would never flare off of us. And, like, that's when, you know, it becomes an incredible head scratcher when birds are not flaring and they're not finishing. It just is a giant question mark in my mind. You know, so, and I mean, I can understand why it would continue to become frustrating for probably you two in particular, because here they are complaining about their late season, and I had a pretty decent late season.
I will be the first to admit my waterfowl season was because I let it be that way. I didn't chase them.
A lot of it is you just didn't go much.
I was going upland hunting more than anything.
But
and if I based my late season on upland, I think I did pretty good. Made it to Kansas. Shot a couple birds in Kansas. Shot one in particular that just hopped up and ran away into a sea of shattercane. That about made me cry, but
I will say, Mike made a comment to me the other day, and because you were talking at Dalton's house for Peyton, he was like, you know, sounds like you killed a few more birds than you let on in the early season of that duck season. I was like, maybe.
Yeah, I told him how we kept saying no water, no ducks. He thought that was pretty funny. I did also tell him that I had a pretty good duck season, but near the end you were scratching your head pretty hard. It, as in just how the season ended for you. The late portion of the season was just so rough on you.
I wouldn't. I know. I disagree with the ducks thing. I would agree with the goose thing.
Yeah.
The way your goose ended, I think it was more of just like the massive frustration of the geese, and then it seemed like the ease of success.
Mm-hmm.
It almost like more infuriating. It's like,
see.
So like
I feel like it's a pretty big buildup. First of all, we had one weekend where I think you were watching Ava. I think Shay had something going on.
Yep.
I think that was when she was sick.
Yep.
No, the first weekend I went out west, I thought she was doing something. Maybe she was sick, but I know you could not come. You couldn't make it.
Yep.
And it seemed like that weekend when it came to the waterfowl just became the buildup of like frustration in your eyes because the geese were just doing us dirty. And then I went out west, and I will say it appears I had a really, really good weekend out there. But I hunted 4 days. 3 of them were barely worth getting up.
Well, I can remember what happened. I couldn't go out west. It just didn't work out because my dad wasn't working, or he wasn't off. He week on, week off. I couldn't make it with you. It was like, okay, Dane and I are going to try to goose hunt. The geese just did not do in the fields what you're wanting to do. So then one day was...
Oh, you guys went to Beatty one day while I was gone.
Beatty one day, and then we were going to talk about hunting the next day. It just didn't end up working out. And we talked about going quail hunting. It just didn't work out.
Yeah.
And I wasn't upset at all.
But that weekend, the third of the 4 days pretty much made my whole duck season. I'll admit to that. I had an amazing mallard beatdown.
Yeah, absolutely.
I started the morning by myself and shot a limit of greenheads. I'd never done that, a full green limit. And like
that was the second time you went, right?
No, this was the first time I went out.
I'm trying to think.
Did you shoot 2 limits of greenheads this year?
3.
Because you had better success the second weekend,
not straight
right?
green. Over the longevity of it, yes. So the second weekend, I think we shot almost 30 ducks in 2 days.
I didn't end up. I couldn't go that time because Ava was.
Yeah, I think that was
sick, but Okay, continue
but
on
so
your green
that
limit.
the first weekend I went, bye. We asked if you had to pee before.
That was right.
It's even worse. It's
That's
on video.
why you always pee before you're getting in the car.
It's even worse now. It's on video.
Jeez.
But anyways, I shot that greenhead limit, and I ended up shooting a bonus green wing teal. That whole weekend, I had been communicating with Matt.
Yep.
Good buddy of ours. Matt's an absolute standout guy. I've learned so much about duck hunting from him, and he was teaching me about a few other spots, and we actually walked into an area one morning and just bullcrapped about duck hunting and whatnot and how our season went and yada yada. And he slept in that morning, and the birds didn't really start flying until about 8 o'clock. And he texted me, he's like, "How you doing?" I was like, "I just shot my first one. I've had tons of mergansers and I'm seeing birds, but they're not committing." And I shot that first one. I texted him that. And literally as I texted him that, I had 3 greenheads and a hen drop into the decoys, and I tripled on the greenheads. And I just texted him. I was like, "I just tripled on greenheads." And he's like, "Oh my goodness." And I said, "Dude, get down here." Because from that moment, mallards everywhere. And I mean, I shot my limit. By the time he got down there, I was done. I just was like, "I'll sit with you. I'll work Dakota." I had her that weekend. I mean, you can find the video from both angles. The video's on his channel, High Prairie Sportsman, and then I've got a video from that weekend. It's just my angle. Unfortunately, I had a side angle, but the one regret I have from that day is it was kind of sleeting, and I faced my side angle right into the sleet. And so before sunrise, my camera was covered. The lens was useless.
Yep.
Which I'm bummed about because I left it on for Matt's portion of the hunt, and like they gave it up for me, but they gave it up for Matt. And he should have been done a little sooner. We had like 7 mallards drop into the decoys. And I think he was thinking about my triple or something, and he let it get into his head. He missed his first 2 shots, and he missed the second one. I was like, "Matt, no, please." And he got 1 drake on the last shot. But I mean, 7 mallards, just perfect. I mean, you have 2-3 guys in that blind, and all those birds are they shouldn't make it out.
Yeah.
And he ended up shooting his limit quick. I mean, I think from the time he shot his first one to the time he shot his last one was about 20 minutes. And then we just sat and watched birds. And I feel bad because Jared was going to come that day and hunt with me, but he got sick that weekend. And so, of course, I sent him pictures. I'm like, "Dude, I wish you'd been here." Like, it was one of those days that I'll never forget that day. Absolute crazy hunt. And I wish we could have shot like a 6-man of mallards that day. Yeah. I wish there had been more people, but I'm also like, the low-key ofness was so nice.
Yeah.
But then, so that weekend you got sick, I just went right back out. We weren't killing geese. I think you weren't in Kansas, but you were busy that weekend. I don't remember what you were doing.
I think actually we were supposed to go to Kansas. I
committed.
Yeah,
that's right. And then Shay got sick.
Shay got sick on Thursday.
That's right.
And then I just
dipped
out by myself.
Yeah, we were like planning on going, and I texted you like 2 days before, like, "Yeah, I'm screwed."
Yeah. And so I went out and hunted with Westside and Marshall, and we had another stellar the first day of that weekend. We should have shot a 3-man limit. Me and Marshall should have put our guns down about noon and not touched them again. We hunted all day, and we saw birds every 30 minutes or so. Widgeon, mallards, gadwall, couple teal. I mean, just a little bit of everything. And I seriously wish I had put my gun down about noon, because I shot a stud widgeon, and after that I didn't hit the broadside of a barn. It was because it was very cold that weekend, cold enough I didn't even take Dakota, and I had so many layers on, I just couldn't shoot with my jacket, and then it got in my head, and I just couldn't do it. You can also find that weekend on the channel. Next day, me and Jared hunted together. We shot a couple mallards, a couple green wings, nothing maddeningly crazy, but it was a fun weekend.
You have to link the video of your hunt into...
Oh, I do.
Okay.
And then I came back, and I mean, that was my duck season. I quit duck hunting at that point, and we tried a few more goose hunts. Didn't have a whole lot of fun.
And then we only had one hunt where we got skunked this year. Goose hunt.
We had two.
Two? I know.
I'm
not
day.
Counting the last
day.
Day.
You
that
didn't
was
really hunt that day.
No, last day, dude.
The last day was just we didn't even know what was gonna happen.
Genuinely
I had more fun just talking. And
that's kind of. I thought that's why we were hunting.
I really when you said the 50 birds. I was like, we're not even gonna kill anything, but it was such a nice
hang
just
out with the boys.
Out, bullshit the whole afternoon.
Wasn't cold.
Just
crazy cold.
But so then after that last weekend, I went out west. We did some quail hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I probably wish I could have chucked my gun into the
Me too, man.
Dude, the last few times we hunted, it was a struggle.
The day Douglas came with us,
I shot really well. That was
you did.
I wouldn't have considered that late season. That was
day. If
I thought that was before South Dakota.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so that was my worst day. You could have offered me $20 for that gun. I'd have been like,
yeah. But you and me went. So Dane and I did a couple hour-long hunts ish, a few evenings the last couple days. Yep. I was planning to hunt the last 3 days all day long, and then I came into some work, and so I only had the afternoons. And then you were busy one day. You knew you were only the last Friday, and that was it.
Yep.
So we just targeted some small coveys that we knew about that had been shot into, and if one person went in and one or two people went in and cleaned up a limit, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Yeah. And that first day, I shot really well when we hunted the pasture.
Yeah, you did. I didn't.
And you did not. You missed two birds that you shouldn't have missed. And I felt really, really bad. And then the next day, you were still working on your house, and I went and checked one covey really quick. And I'm so mad about that day you hunted, because Dakota went to work that day.
The day I didn't come?
No, the day we both shot really bad.
Oh, okay.
When I hunted.
Oh, the popcorn.
Hunted, yeah.
Yeah, no, neither one of us could hit the broadside of a barn.
I'm just mad about it because from the moment we started hunting, Dakota, not before, because I did that one right across from Dan's. Yeah, I did that covey by myself because you're still working on the house. And Dakota put up another popcorn right in front of me of probably 15 to 20 birds. I went 1 for 7. Right in my face. Perfect. Single birds coming up at a time. I should have cleaned a limit right there, and I didn't. And I was one shot. I drilled a tree. Absolutely drilled it. Was so mad about it. I watched it again when I was editing that video. Absolutely furious about it. And then so I went and picked up him, and I went and met him, and he's like, "Would you find him?" And I was like, I was surprised you didn't hear me shooting, but
I was pretty sure I could, but I was playing music in the house.
And I literally was like, "Oh, I should have had a limit." He's like, "What happened?" I was like, "I think you gave me all your voodoo from the night before because I couldn't hit a thing." And so we went and did the new farm, and we had we found 30 plus quail.
We had 40 minutes of light left?
Yeah.
When we got there?
And we started walking, and the dogs were birdie instantly, and we just followed them all the way. And then Dakota found that first one.
She killed it.
She killed that covey. Just going to work on it. And I'll be damned if by the end of the hunt we both only had 3 birds. And not between, we each had 3 birds, but we easily should have shot a 2-man limit.
And we're not talking one cubby got up when we each got 3 birds. No, Every single bird was a single at a time.
We had a couple twos and threes, but
we're talking 35, 30 birds.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big covey, and we sucked it up. I mean, it was bad.
I think we got there at the right time. They were spread out feeding.
It was warm that day.
It was warm.
It was warm that day. And then we went the last day, and
I should have had 4. I sailed that one across. We got over there, found it, and it vanished.
The shooting was bad that last day as well for all. My dad shot really well.
Yeah, he did.
He shot 4 or 5 before he had to leave, and he shot really, really well. I think we ended
up with 3 that day.
With the 4 he shot, I think we shot 10 quail. And then we had, it was kind of funny. We were on a property that we're really familiar with, usually a lot of quail. And you guys were trying to cross that drainage, I think was what was happening. And Boone was birdie in a little grass patch. And so you guys were kind of watching it, and then Dakota snuck up. And I wasn't really paying attention, and I think both Dakota and Nala kicked that rooster out of that.
I couldn't figure out what you were talking about. Yeah.
They kicked this rooster out of grass, and I'm not paying attention. I'm just waiting for you guys to cross the drainage. I see it get up. Only reason I knew it was a rooster, it cackled. And I just like, a rooster, and I shot at it, didn't hit it, because it was through a tree at 40 yards, and we watched it, and we watched it go down, and I never have luck with pheasants. Like, I know a lot of people want to chase pheasants when they watch them. Like, I watch them just to watch them, but I very rarely catch up to a rooster.
Oh, they 90% of the time
hit the ground and
running.
Well, we got lucky where this bird ended up hitting it. And
he didn't have anywhere to run.
He didn't really have anywhere to go, and we walked up that drainage, and about the time Dad had really seen where it landed, and
Dakota started digging.
I was going to say, and I'm not going to cuss you out too much. I haven't posted the video yet. After we shot it, you were like, Boone had pointed it. Now Dakota found that bird.
Oh, I know she did.
She found that bird, and it was really similar to that South Dakota pheasant that I've raved about that she got, where she just hit a point 90 degreed into this patch, and she had it pinned. I mean, this bird had nowhere to go, and I got to within 10 feet of her before the bird got up, and I should have killed that thing dead, but I took about 3 branches with it, and I think all of us put BBs into that bird.
That bird should have never flopped.
And I mean, we got it, and
it tasted the same.
Oh yeah, actually, I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but I made pheasant pot pies out of it.
I did that last year. Super good.
Pheasant and quail pot pies. Oh mercy.
So quick question, did you leave it chunks of meat, or did you cook the meat and then shred it and then put it in?
So I always cook it because I will never trust that
there's no BBs in it.
Well, there's that. Actually, I was able to make, because I did a bunch of it. I made 4 total pot pies from that whole week, basically, of all the quail and that pheasant. And so I cook it all in a pan, and then I slice it and I mix it in with the pot pie. Because I'd hate to, cook the pot pie and then the meat not end up being totally cooked.
This is true.
Because I freeze them, obviously. I'm not just eating 4 pot pies right in a row, but yeah, so that's what I usually do.
I did it twice last year. One time I just diced it up, threw it in there, cooked it, and it was good. But every now and then you get kind of a chewy piece. So the next time
I didn't have any problems with that.
The next time I made it, I cooked it separate and then shredded it, and then I put it in there. I liked that a lot better, and you get you get more for every bite instead of just getting a big piece here and a big piece there.
Yeah, but so that basically, we found 5 coveys that last day.
And
that rooster,
5 coveys.
We should have killed way more birds than we did.
Not one of them was under 20 birds.
Yeah, just bad shooting.
I tell you what, you guys bumped that covey at the bottom where all the kind of sunflower junk was. I don't think Dakota. I feel like she knew that they were there, but didn't We should probably talk about it, but it's been so dry that the scenting conditions, they are just...
And quail aren't exactly a stinky bird to begin with.
Like, beyond garbage.
Which covey are you talking about?
Yeah, what sunflower trash are you?
Where the sinkholes were.
Oh. That was a very new property.
So
you talking about when they first bumped, or...
Yeah,
So the first bump, you guys couldn't see it.
Yeah. I just saw them take
both
off.
Dakota and Boone. I mean, right on it. They were on that. The only thing,
honestly, there was no way we could have got in that hole. The only
problem was what happened, and Dad doesn't listen to these podcasts, so he probably won't get too offended by this if he does ever hear it. But I basically was like, Dad, we need to get up there because if Boone's ahead of Dakota and I can keep Dakota back, it's all good. But they both found the scent about the same time, and when that
they were fighting each other.
They were fighting for the push, which was a comp. I don't have a problem with personally because I'm a lab guy. Does not bother me. But I was like, Dad, we need to get up there, and Dad was lagging behind, and I didn't want to be that guy that got way up there and got to shoot. And we were probably at 35-40 when they got up.
I actually was. It turned out to be a good thing. No one shot.
Oh, I shot at him.
Oh, you did the first time?
I shot at him, but the problem is when they...
I can't believe they went back down so close.
Because of where they got up and the distance, both the dogs stepped in the covey at the same time, and they basically right on the dogs. And by the time they got far enough away from the dogs, they were probably pushing 50, and I was just...
And those birds had to fly up to get out of the hole, and the dogs chased them up.
I think that's why they didn't go that far.
Yeah.
But
I was glad they didn't.
I'm really... probably where you were going with it. I'm frustrated with the way that covey held when we caught back up to him.
So the problem, I shouldn't say the problem is, our dogs are all very competitive and driven.
Yeah.
So when all three of them catch the same scent at once, which is hard to do with the scenting conditions, they tend to push each other at times.
Yeah.
And in that moment, all three dogs were just like...
I was doing everything I could to keep Dakota back, and
did Boone even point him on the second? I don't think
they all hit him at the same time.
Yeah, I think they just kind of got.
They just sat in the covey basically.
So I had shot like crap at this point. I had shot one. We'd put a lot of effort to find some quail. We'd found a few coveys. We got to this property. They all took up the hill like, oh, this is gonna be good.
I was so excited because they were just spread out enough that I thought.
Yep.
They were going to do what we experienced the day before.
So then all three dogs bombed into this single. The single took off. I missed it twice, so I'm irritated about that because the quail got about 40.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm fumbling, trying to get some shells, and then there's like 30
They're
of them, just like boop, 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 and I'm like...
I was trying my damnedest to reload my gun because I had dumped my gun and... missed my first shot and then shot the same bird that Dane did. So I was...
Jeremy and I have a tendency to do that.
So at that point, I'm just like, freaking kidding me.
It was kind of a giant bummer because the first couple got up and I was like, okay, like, pause. Let's reload our guns because they're all right here. I figured what they would do, what they generally do. You'll get 2 or 3 that go up at a time. Nope. It was a big covey. It was 40 birds.
Yeah.
And they just, while we're reloading, just started exploding out of the grass. I was like, gosh, dang it.
It was, I will say, I want to jump back to something real quick. That's ironic that you were talking about that property that we know pretty well. And then all those birds went across the way. And it's like, trying to figure out who owns it or farms it. And then we know who.
And we could have been hunting it. Yeah, it just was super frustrating.
Because there's like a nice washout spot at the bottom. It's like there's definitely something through there.
I don't know. I don't know if you've looked. You need to work on that one because I don't know if you've looked at the map right there. They own like 6 sections right there. There's a lot of land.
We know who farms it all.
Yeah. No, I'm saying for next year.
It's like, oh, that would be nice. Yeah. Oh wait.
Yeah. We're all look at the name and like, who is that? And you get home and you talk to Shay and you're like, oh, crap.
Well, so that day I called Shay's grandpa. He's like, oh, yeah, I'll look it up on my map, and I'll figure it out. Like, okay, he calls me back the next day, which is the end of season.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, yeah. He's like, you should really talk to that guy. He farms a lot. And I kind of chuckle, and I was like, Yeah, got permission on it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I just remember you putting it in the group chat. He was like, we could have hunted that property. I was like, you're lying to me.
I don't actually remember whose it ended up being.
Well,
not say it off
podcast. Yeah.
The what?
The big farmer.
Oh, that's right.
But
yeah. So like, yeah, family of his is basically, so he runs that whole thing.
So you're saying you can get permission on all that guy's ground?
You have permission to all that guy's ground.
Okay, I think we're thinking of a different name.
Yeah.
I now know who you're talking about, and yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So either way, it's just ironic.
Yeah, it is.
The funny part is like, just being friends with Dane, that happens a lot.
It does.
It happens more than you think. Like,
well, there's so much ground out.
Well, and so many
in
people
this area
like
that's leased.
Properties get put in trusts. They get in so many different things, and like farmers. I mean, for instance, that one field that we kind of got screwed for that goose hunt by those kids. I mean, you look at the name on that property, you don't know who it is, but then you're like, oh, this farmer farms it. And he
tax address is out in California.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then turns out it's a guy we've had permission on for years.
So it's just...
It's like, dude, you guys got to let me know these things.
Well, yeah, you just got to start asking around sometimes. Because, I mean, how many times have you called your dad and been like, you know who owns this property or who farms it? And he's like, da-da-da-da-da. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll give him a call.
One, like the new property where we had that popcorn, the back side of all that, which looks fantastic for
we can hunt everything around it with who you know.
All we got to do is ask. I mean, I wouldn't go do it right now, but I know the guy wouldn't care if I did. He would be like, I mean, I'd prefer you ask, but it's fine.
Well, and I always am a firm believer that you should ask. I've had some bad experiences in the past with not knowing.
I wouldn't appreciate someone doing it to me, so I wouldn't.
Well, it happened to your neighbor this year. Yep. And that was one. That's one of our favorite properties. I'm hoping that covey survived.
I'm hoping it was on the other property, like it tends to be.
I mean, we could go check that property and run the dogs on it.
No, I'm not one of those. This is a time of rest. I'll figure it out next season. That's my thing. But
what's your thoughts on that? I know we're jumping topics, but like, there's some guys that I've seen in Iowa that are running public land that are still running their dogs.
I don't mind it if you want, because like a lot of states will allow you to do it a few weeks before season. Like Montana, you can do it the month of
it's just like
2 weeks of August or something like that.
$5 tag.
Yeah, you got to get a permit. I'm okay if you want to get a permit.
I'm fine with it being preseason, but I'm talking late season.
Late season. I think as soon as season ends, I don't think you should have your dogs in, because especially think the time of year. Like depending on what state you are, you know, your season ends somewhere between the 1st and the end of January for upland.
Yep.
And 3 of the hardest months for upland period. One is January. You're getting hunting pressure as it is. And then you've got, it's, you know, a really cold month of the year, short days, yada, yada. Then you go into February, which like right now, think about it. If it was upland season right now, we wouldn't even be hunting because it's so cold. And there's enough snow on the ground that like, I don't want to push particularly the quail around.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wouldn't even want to push pheasants around right now because it's just so cold and they need every ounce of fat that they can get. And then March is up in the air sometimes. And even when it's not super cold, you know, we'll have a year where we get a lot of rain in March or super wet packed snow. That has a tendency to happen in March for us every couple years. So I just don't get it. Why you would want to go run and pressure birds that have been pressured all season.
I think it's more of like not so much lab guys, the pointer guys that are like, oh, I can still do some tuning up. Like
that's fine. Go somewhere you can.
Yeah.
I know the game farm birds are not the same, but if you've got the itch and you want to tune it, you can still tune a good dog up with game farm birds, especially a pointer. You know,
wild birds make a dog.
I don't disagree with you, but what's more important though? Like,
no, actually,
you kill off the population because they bomb out of cover and then you get they die.
There's that.
I agree.
I'll agree, but I'll disagree. Wild birds do make a better dog specific situations make a dog. Now, like for instance, I've told several guys about this, and you know, there's probably somebody out there that's gonna say, "Oh, that's a terrible idea." Especially for upland birds, if you want to get your dog going in the right direction, go to a game farm for the first couple hunts of its life. Set him. I mean, we did that for Dakota.
What's the argument though? Because what I would say is bird encounters. At some point, like yes. You have this level of success for a dog that eventually, if a game farm birds, it's going to plateau. So right, you have a plateau here now. Wild birds takes you up higher, and you get a better high end.
What I'm
saying is bird encounters up into a point is the most important.
What I'm saying is early in that dog's career, the most important thing should be appropriate bird encounters. Getting that dog to my biggest thing with Dakota was I took her pheasant hunting with us one time before she really had any pheasant training or anything. She's like 6 months old. I just wanted to get her out and run around. And I actually think that created more bad habits and uselessness for her than what I ended up doing that next season when she was officially really hunting. Because that first, before season started, and I told you guys, I was like, I just want to go to BD for one day. I want to throw out a couple birds. I want Dakota to do a couple birds by herself so she gets that idea, and then we run all the dogs together. Because we've talked about this several times. Z inference is probably the example I go to the most right now, and it's why I've told you when you have taken him to BD or when you did the Game and Park stuff, I think you need to shoot a couple birds over that dog, even if he doesn't do what is exactly required of him, because he needs to understand, as far as that dog's concerned, as we've said, he's chasing butterflies, and he just found a pheasant randomly. Now, when it comes to fine tuning and, you're talking about your plateau, if you run your dog on game birds, they're just going to learn, hey, I run around, I get a smell, that bird's right there, it's going to hold there until somebody kicks it out.
Yeah.
And I absolutely believe that wild birds will allow your dog to learn new tactics. Tracking in particular is something that becomes super important with wild birds. But I just think when it comes to dogs, your best step is to get them to really understand what's going on. Because I think a lot of guys just, you can do stuff in practice with the launchers or whatnot.
Yeah.
But until you get them in the field, sometimes I don't know that there's some dogs I've seen I don't think understand what's going on.
So I'm not this way, but I know some guys are with their pointers. They refuse to go to a game farm for the sole purpose of those birds do hold super tight. And then if you get the situation where your dog's catching a bird, or I ran into this problem with Boone, trying to point and touch them at the same time, just way too close. A wild bird ain't going to let your dog get that close. And I had that problem in Montana this year. He was just getting he was pointing, he was just getting too close, and they were bumping. He was pushing birds.
Well, I don't think that had anything to do with the pheasants at the game farm. The reality is, and I think we all noticed this, let's use 4 groups. We've got the quail, we've got the huns, we've got the grouse, and then we've got the pheasants. Huns, to me, are quail and pheasant put together. Those little birds are going to run like crazy, and then they're going to get up as a covey. Yep. Whereas you go to grouse, and I think grouse are pheasants and quail, but they lean towards holding tight like quail. Except for late season, I have heard, and we didn't do a whole lot of late season grouse hunting, but I've heard when they get into their really, really big groups, they'll wild flush at 80 to 100 yards. Douglas tells me that all the time.
Prairies are really bad with that.
See, I haven't personally hunted prairies, and so it's kind of tough for me to really give a feeling towards them. But what we experienced in Montana is, they hold a little more like pheasants, or like quail, and then popcorn like pheasants.
Yep.
And so I think it's big, even for the labs. It was a learning experience on each bird. And until they figure out how to get each bird, for instance, we've referenced Eric Forrester before several times, and we talk about it all the time. His dogs react to every bird differently, and have the way they track, and it's just especially when he runs the puppies, they all learn something. I am also very much so. I will acknowledge that I'm looking at this from somebody who mostly pheasants and quail hunts. So
that's the thing is, I guess the argument I would make, at least just the situation like Boone, he really understood what upland was when we started quail hunting a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So for him...
And that's my fault. I was
going to say,
he was a duck dog at first.
I was going to say, not to cut in, but you talk about all these pointer things, but let's remember that for the first 4 years of Boone's life, he was a duck dog.
So in that case, even this year, I would say he's come a long way with pheasants and grouse.
Oh, for sure.
He did way better on pheasants this year.
So if he would have started that way, I think even if he done game farm stuff, I think it would have been a lot different. So
like I said, I'm not that way.
Case.
I will always use the game farm to my advantage.
My argument to the pointer purist guys that would say game farms are bad for their dogs, I would bet my house on those guys using your bird launchers to train their dogs.
And that's exactly what they just do it so they have control of the launch.
And see, that's fine and dandy, but I do think that you can utilize all the tactics. If you want to use a bird launcher to control that to get the distance, totally fine. But granted, I don't have a pointer. My goal with my dog is to have them flush, and I know I can willingly admit that you and me have gone back and forth about it a few times. Dakota will get a little far, and she'll get a little further than I'd like and pop a bird. But see, I'm plenty fine shooting a rooster at 40 yards. That does not bother me, and but I get it for working your dog.
Yep.
And I say we've gone at it. It's all been friendly and just little differences in dogs, but I don't know.
And those two totally shine in different ways.
And I mean, I think we saw it a lot this year, going back to the end of our season. I will 100% hunt over Boone for quail, period. Pheasants too. But quail, he shines so well at finding coveys. And then on the flip side, as soon as that covey is broken up, something about the labs and the single quail tucked down in the grass. I think Boone is turning into Staw a little bit in the sense that
he likes the coveys.
He likes the big scent. He's looking for the big scent.
Well, we watched it on the property we shot the pheasant. Boone likes to run the edge. And all he's looking for, he's looking for that. He's just trying to catch a whiff, and then he'll turn in, which is hard to do with a bunch of singles that just sat down.
No,
the labs are running nose down, digging as they go.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just all personal preferences on your dog. Not to get off. I mean, we got off on a total
tangent.
I
feel like it's an enjoyable one.
Oh yeah. So that pretty much ended our quail season, or our upland season, and
in my opinion, we did darn good upland wise. You had some really good duck hunts, some really good goose hunts.
Well, I was about to say, I actually had written season off. I was done.
Oh yeah,
I think we were all done. The geese had beat us to death hard, and we also had a lot of warm days in the forecast, and we were done. And you heard it a little bit when he called us that one day. I'm supposed to tell you or make you tell Dustin he's a good goose hunter.
I never said he wasn't.
Apparently,
I gotta.
Anyway, the point is,
I'd like to give an apology to Dustin.
So Friday the 31st was the last day of upland. We didn't do anything Saturday. I literally was ready to put everything away. Dustin texted me Saturday night, and I will say I because I felt bad in a sense. Dustin texted me 9 o'clock. He's like, "What are you doing Sunday morning?" And I was like, I told him honestly, I was like, I'm planning to clean my house, but anything can happen. And he's like, I've got one spot for a goose hunt. And he sends me a video, and it's down on the river, and there's like 3,000 geese on this sandbar. And I just said when and where, and knowing in the back of my head, and I for sure apologized to Hunter because I did kind of feel bad because you in particular wanted to kill a lot of geese this year and put in a lot of effort, time, and money, and
I couldn't care less.
You were done with it.
I like to goose and duck hunt because you guys still like to goose. And if I had it my way, I would chase upland all the time.
Yeah, I know. But point is, he invited me, bunch of geese on the sandbar, had an absolute blast. It was my first time hunting with a couple guys, so I actually didn't record it. Point being, we shot a 5-man limit by 10 o'clock that morning of singles and doubles right in the decoys. And it was an absolute blast. And I actually, when I sent you the picture and I basically was like, please forgive me or something like that, I actually expected Hunter to call and be like, dude, what the hell?
Sick invite.
And he just said, sick hunt, who'd you go with? And I told him, Dustin, we were driving back to his house and just waiting for you to call and just to go in on us, like, where's the invite, yada, yada. And I mean, when Dustin texted me, he'd asked 4 people before me, and they all were like, no, I'm done, I'm over it.
Yeah.
And then,
we're not just second on his list. We're 6th and 7th, hopefully.
The 4 people, so he was hunting with one of his buddy who had a couple guys coming, and then he was told he could bring one person with him. So he invited the core guys that he hunts with, Jake, and 2 other guys' names that I can't remember off the top of my head for sure. He invited those guys, and then he doesn't have your number.
Yeah,
so
I know. I'm not cussing you, Dustin.
He didn't think about calling or texting you. And his big thing, he's like, I would have invited Hunter, but the problem is it's Saturday night at 9 o'clock, and I didn't know if he'd be able to
make it happen.
Get the wife to let him to go. But so he texted me.
I hear footsteps.
And I mean, of course, legitimately, if he'd said he could have brought one more person, I was like, Hunter will be in. I bet we could make it work. But I don't know. So
it is what it is.
And then
it is what it is.
I did end up going with him one more day because Eric, the main guy that had the permission spot, was like, we're going to hunt this weekend, come back for one last day. And there actually ended up being more people there than I would have liked. And Dustin didn't figure it out until the next morning. If I had known that many people were going to be there, I probably wouldn't have gone, which would have made life a lot easier, actually. But we shot 5 Canadas, and then we shot 2 specs, which I do remember texting both of you guys and be like, you guys still love me, right? And Hunter, I think, said, yeah, a little bit. Why?
A little bit.
I sent the picture of me holding these 2 specs, and he's like, I lied. And I did feel bad. If it makes you feel better, I successfully was the 3rd person to put BBs in the one that I shot before I even pulled the trigger. So
I think you paid enough for those.
Yeah.
Mentally and emotionally.
Yeah.
I think you got
Yeah.
Yeah, let's not talk about Fallout,
we won't.
I
paid for it, but so that's pretty much how our season ended. And yes, some endings were better than others.
Yeah. No, I mean, the only thing that I'd take from that hunt is like, I do want, if we have another dry year like we have we have this year, I do want to go down to the river.
We need a river spot.
Say that we have nothing.
Well, we got one.
You have a river spot.
We just have to do the bet. Like,
yeah,
we have to. It.
Yeah,
we need to get a blind built, which Hunter and I
we've talked about.
I think I told you that Hunter and I had talked about it.
Yeah.
We've all been kind of talking back and forth about it.
He's gonna have some scraps. I've got some scraps. It'll work out. We'll have a heck of a blind to get down there.
Yeah. But
I mean, honestly, we could put it on wheels too and take it and come and go with it.
That's what I would do.
I wouldn't.
I would be very irritated if I showed up to that. It is a private spot, but there's several people that can hunt it.
I think you said, if you told me correctly, unless it's changed, there's only one other guy.
It's the one guy in particular, but I'm not sure if his buddy will go by him. He's not supposed to, but there's a chance his buddy might go sit in that blind by himself without the guy that has the permission. But
that's not what I'm concerned about is water levels.
Yeah, water levels, and I would be really upset if I showed up to a private spot and someone was sitting in my blind.
Which happens more times than not down the river, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You put a blind on the river and someone sees it not being used, odds are someone's going to hop in it. But
it's funny how that works.
Yeah.
But
people like to help themselves to things that don't belong to them.
But I don't think we need to talk about it on the podcast. I would say, like, we'll probably do a separate one about intentional steps we're going to take for next year.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I think there's a lot of things that we're all talking about. Yeah. Talking about, like, all the things we want to start planning and be intentional about getting either permission, access, all that preparation kind of stuff. So,
yeah.
Which, Snow Goose is coming up. I just because last year I didn't care about Snow Goose because goose season was so bad. I'm actually, like, itching to shoot some snow geese. Like, a flock of 10 just coming in and just.
I've killed 3 geese this year, so yeah, I could
I'm
pry.
Not gonna lie, I'm itching. That's why I keep asking.
Yeah, no, I'll text him tomorrow and see if he's thinking about this weekend or not.
I'm very cognizant right now that, like, I'm gonna itch and then the adults are gonna show up and I'm gonna get screwed. So I'm really trying to, like, let's set up decoys, but I'm still, like, in my mind's like, I'm gonna give it a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Because I really honestly think we had such a good freeze and we have pretty good snow. That,
and apparently South Dakota got a lot of snow.
So I'm hoping that, like, things actually, like, kind of start to line up a little bit. But, like, I'm excited.
Only thing that worries me now, it's 14 days out. It's supposed to warm up next week.
Yep.
And I did notice that there appears to be another cold front on the back side of the 14 days. Now, I never trust anything that far. I mean, heck, 2 days ago, we were looking at, I was looking at a 69-degree day on Monday or Tuesday of next week, and now it's in the low 50s. So,
yeah,
we'll just have to see. But
I know we're gonna have some ice.
Yeah.
After these couple days, so that'll take a minute to melt away.
But he has an ice eater, doesn't he?
He does. Yes, he does.
Oh, I didn't actually know that.
Like,
yeah,
super
and
helpful.
The way that pond
actually makes life a lot easier because I was going to tell him I could leave my kayak down there if it iced up so we could break it. But
so the way that pond is, you know how there's, like, the island?
Yeah.
He
just makes current all the way around it. That makes total sense.
Yup. And it works out perfectly. It opens the entire thing.
That's why he shot so many geese on it 2 years ago, because we kept struggling with ice.
Yep.
And I bet this year...
And he doesn't have to run a generator. He runs an extension cord. He's got power there. It's like...
Man, I actually bet the first 2 weeks of birds showing up, we could have some good luck there.
That's why he does good early with the adults. I wouldn't say good, but he still kills some.
Yeah. We'll have to see.
Yep.
That's all we can do.
I hope we can get after some. I'd like to get on a few jumps.
Needs to hurry up because we got about...
I'm itching. It's getting bad.
3.5, 4 weeks before Snow Goose out, gone. Yeah. No moss in my mind.
Well, it wasn't bugging me until 2 days ago. It would have been Sunday, I think. Yeah, Sunday. I took the dog out, go for a little run. And where that cubby is by Dan's, drive past that to this piece that splits us and the neighbor.
Oh, were they standing right there?
Nope, not the same cubby. Definitely a different cubby. But I was running him just in the field. Didn't want to be on the roads. And he sticks a point, and I was like, no way. No. Got out, flushed him. Huge cubby. And then I was like, maybe it's the same birds that Jeremy keeps finding. I mean, you're talking quarter mile away. So I went back over there, checked that spot. Cubby was still there. They did what they always do and dropped into the road ditch, but
it's totally not the direction I thought you were gonna. I thought you were gonna say you saw turkeys.
I did see turkeys today on the falls. About 20 of them digging in the snow.
Toms or the hens and babies?
There was mostly toms and some young.
It was the male group.
Looking.
It was the male group.
Yeah.
They'll still be split up for a couple weeks.
I'm so excited about turkey season.
There was some birds.
Wait.
Some birds in there that looked like hens, but I'm guessing they were jakes.
They're young jakes.
Just young jakes.
I'm so excited. I can't wait.
I get it.
I'm going to hunt every single day.
There was 7 toms. Like 12 birds total.
Okay, so is it 12 or 20? Because you said 20.
No, the quail. The quail.
Oh,
Or did I say there was...
You said there was 20 turkeys when I asked. Never mind. Don't matter. So.
All right, we ready to get on?
Sure.
All right, everybody. Appreciate you listening. We're filming the podcast now on Huntfish365's YouTube. Head on over, hit subscribe, comment. Tell us how your late season ended. Hopefully better than ours. So appreciate you guys listening. Have a good night.